I understood those that wore their visors straight forward were saying they were sexually straight, and those that wore their visors to the back were telling everyone they were gay, while those who wore the visor to the side were saying that they swung both ways.
As usual, at least every time I check, we've got Roy Huntington, Special Assignments Editor.
All right, welcome to the jungle. We have fun and games. We are the Gun Cranks. I'm Guns Magazine editor Brent Weed, along with American Handgunner editor Tom McHale and Special Assignments editor Roy Huntington. Gentlemen, welcome back after, I think last week we were a best of, right?
We were. So I've been practicing my royal wave since we have all these royals in the country now that they seem, they seem to want their privacy, but they keep going on tours. So
yeah. Why won't all these people leave me alone after every press release? Really? Seriously. So, welcome, gentlemen. And I was just looking at my screen. I've got a monitor, pointing back. I really sunburned myself yesterday, and I wasn't out very long. So, if I look a little red on the video, I am a little red. So, anyway, moving on to today's topic, something we've threatened to do for a long time, and we're going to do it today. We're going to talk about reader mail, because letters, oh Lord, we get letters. And I've often said on the Guns Magazine podcast and Gun Cranks, I would love to answer them all. Roy does a good job. He answers pretty much every one of them. I don't get that done. And Tom, you'll probably answer every single one too, don't you?
You know what? It's like my regular mail. It's bingey. I binge it because you binge mail for a while, then you do get other stuff done, and you binge mail. So yeah, I read every one, every single one.
Okay, this is totally off topic, but do you guys ever get to inbox zero? I know Roy says he does. I do not ever. Tom, I would be interested to hear your thoughts since you're more OCD than I am.
An actual serious comment for me might be the first one ever. I do try and manage, and I succeed pretty frequently. Yeah. I'll call it inbox scroll line. And what I mean by that, no, this is real.
I know what you're talking about.
There's a real.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
So if it goes below the scroll line, you can lose track of that, right? But as long as everything's above the scroll line, which I haven't counted, but I guess on my computer, if I'm not using an external monitor, maybe 15 or somewhere between 15 and 20 emails.
Wow.
Inbox scroll line. I feel happy and content if I'm at inbox scroll line.
Yep.
Wow. Good for you guys, because I don't. And
I feel happier if it's even shorter.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to be retired. Yeah. I don't know.
You should be inbox zero easily, except for jokes flying around from your friends.
Yeah. Well, let's get down to it. I got to put on my official Guns Magazine reading spectacles here, and I've just culled a few off the top. Tom has also, and let me say right off the bat, we're going to get some mail about this one, I'm sure, and comments. And keep in mind, this is actual reader mail, okay? The opinions
for Patriots. You know what? I saw for Patriots. It was much better than Cats.
Exactly. I almost did it again, and we even did the little chant before we got started of "For Patriots, for Patriots." That's why we were all chanting "For Patriots."
Right. I thought you were going to join me in the "For Patriots" chant.
Well, that is my daily,
hanging me out to dry.
Truly, it's my daily mantra when I'm doing my mindfulness exercises. I sit down here on the floor, cross-legged, and do forpatriots.com, forpatriots.com for all your preparedness needs and the amazing solar generators. And that's my mantra.
You know what? So you're making a mockery of this, but I, for one, am thankful to have such a cool sponsor as
I am too. I'm not mocking them at all. I'm mocking myself.
Practical. I write books called Practical Guides, and this is practical stuff.
Yes, it really is. So
food, backup power, all kinds of useful things.
And if you use the special code GUNMAGS when you check out, what happens, Tom?
Gun Cranks.
Sorry.
All together, all one word, Gun Cranks.
Gun Cranks, Gun Cranks,
off
Gun
your
Cranks.
First order. So buy something expensive like one of the power kits.
Yes. So before we move on from our great sponsorship, let's all join in the mantra. ForPatriots.com gun cranks. ForPatriots.com gun cranks. Okay.
For Patriots.
Okay. I bet they're really excited that they're sponsoring the gun cranks. But they are good products, and I like mine, like Roy said. It's sitting right over there. So, okay, guys, we've talked about ForPatriots.com, and it is the number 4Patriots.com. That's the website. Mm-hmm. Let's move on to the letters. And we probably ought to have some kind of music or something in there, so I'll let our ace producer, Joe.
You just gave Joe permission to do.
I know.
We don't know what's coming, folks.
I'm thinking something Turkey in the Straw, kind of a cartoony kind of thing. Anyway, okay, here we go. As remember Johnny Carson, sealed in a jar underneath Funkin' Wagnall's porch.
They've been kept in a mayonnaise jar on Funkin' Wagnall's porch since noon today.
The opinions expressed by letter writers are not necessarily opinions shared by the hosts or FMG publications or whatever. Okay, here we go. In the episode on why women are better shooting students, the 3K cranks start out with Roy wearing his hat sideways. It brought back memories. For the last 20 plus years of my working career, I taught at vocational school. What we call technical college now, but really a vocational school. It seemed that many of the students wore hats into the classroom with the visors facing any and all directions. On one of the first days of class each year, I explained that I did not care if they wore their hats in class since I had finally figured out hat language. I explained that I understood that those that wore their visors straight forward were saying they were sexually straight, and those that wore their visors to the back were telling everyone they were gay, while those who wore the visor to the side were saying that they swung both ways. From that day forward, hats were so placed so the visors would keep sun out of their eyes. Thank you, Bob. There you go. So
I can't compete. I'm throwing away all my letters. I'm out of this show from here on in.
It's right there in black and white, okay?
See, now I'm gonna have to be really careful. My visor is exactly straight forward. You know?
Exactly.
Do you? Yeah. Really?
Well, you guys have, I hope, realized by now, my job as kind of the unofficial host of the Gun Cranks is to start the show, then pull the pin on the grenade and drop it in. So there you go. Wear your hat any way you want. God bless you. But that's what Bob says. And I think he's pretty brilliant. So, okay, Roy, no more weird hats.
Bob. That's awesome.
Tom, I know. Now, follow that up.
I'm busy looking in Roy's workshop to see what we might see back there from his activities, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, shh, wait, there, it's secret. You can't look back there. No.
Okay.
Well, Tom, take it away.
I'm going to... Okay, I got a serious one. We did an episode a while back on best shot ever. My best shot ever, which means all of us, all our viewers, all our listeners. So I got a letter from David in Oregon, and I'll have to paraphrase it. He told me the full story, but his gun club used to hold a running deer contest, and they rigged up a cardboard deer on a cable system that goes zooming across the range, about 60 to 75 yards downrange, and they had a competition, one shot only, for each contestant, at the running deer, and the closest to the heart wins the prize. So he had his, he was young at the time. He had his 22 bolt action, and they actually, because he was a youngster, they gave him a bunch of tries throughout the event, and no one could find a 22 hole on the running deer. So there's a happy ending here. There's a happy ending. A member, kind of took pity on him, and one guy said, "Why don't you try my rifle?" And it was a lever action with one of those classic German reticles, the heavy post at the bottom and the fine ones up top, and he didn't know what the caliber was, but he got up on the line, took one shot, won the entire day. So that was David's best shot ever. That's pretty impressive.
That's pretty impressive.
I think that's the kind where when you hit that one and somebody says, "That was just lucky, do it again," you're like, you've seen enough.
Exactly.
I don't need to prove myself twice, right? And you just walk away, right?
I always go, I always go, no, you're right. That was absolutely blind luck. You know? And if you don't believe me, I'll try to do it again and fail.
Well, I'm hoping
That's good. I thought you were going to say, though, that one of the line guy went up and poked a 22 hole in the target, because that's what I would have done.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, guys.
All right, Brent.
I've got a topic for another show. We need to talk about tactical taping. Now, anybody that's been in a formal training class knows what tactical taping is, whether you know that's the term or not, is when you've got an instructor walking down the line and you're all up taping the holes. Where do you start? You don't start in the dead center where you made the shot, right?
Nope.
Over here? Oh, there's one. And I don't know how that got there, but by the time that's why here's a tactical tip. You always want to be at the center, because if you're on either end, the instructor, there's a chance he'll start at that end and move down. So you want to be in the center, so you've got plenty of time to tape your target before anybody gets there. So a little tip from the gun cranks. So
there you go. Good one.
All right. As Johnny Carson used to do again, that one's gone. Okay. Serious biz now. Roy was the first.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Roy was the first to mention porting on the smaller, lighter guns. From personal experience on a Charter Bulldog, this is where porting shines. I had some rather hot for 44 special loads that I used in planking and snake disposal when packing my Ruger Super Red Hawk. Shooting those loads in my factory new Bulldog was not a pleasant experience. Shooting those loads in my Bulldog would turn the entire palm of my hand bright pink. It would stand up and bark with each shot. I copied the porting on Charter's 2-inch 357 Magnum on my Bulldog. What a difference. I normally shoot a little milder load in the Bulldog, but I tried some of my original loads. No big deal now. I even tried a couple shots single-handedly, both left and right. They were plenty loud, but not hard to handle. I wouldn't waste my time or money on porting for a full-size or even a mid-size gun that has some weight to it. However, when it comes to shooting small light guns and major calibers, port it. And that's from Gary Smith. So, gentlemen, porting, it does make them louder. Roy and I just messed around with some porting comparisons here last time I was out at your place. Did Roy freeze? Yep. Oh, there he is.
I would say that he needs to man up, and learn how to manage recoil. That's all I have to say, by God.
Okay. Time out.
No, that's not
Roy.
true. I think
Roy, this is an audience. We're not supposed to offend them.
I was feeling his pain.
That's okay.
is what I was doing. I was feeling his pain. No, he's right. Yesterday I was actually shooting a ported gun, and I would say, with all due respect to Ken Kelly at Magnaport, the only downside really I see is that they do get loud. It really barks at you when you have a port, and I've never really understood, though. I mean, if you're just going to shoot your Bulldog 44, for instance, one shot or two shots or three shots, it's like, I don't know why you need to port it in that. If you're going to a handgun class and you're going to shoot 1,000 rounds this week, then I could see where that would really make a difference, but gosh, but what do I know? Mm-hmm. Nothing. You can say it. Nothing. Yeah.
Well, I'm like Roy. I nothing against porting. I've got several ported guns, but I will agree the muzzle flip is a thing. So if you've got a gun that tends to be flippy, if that's a word, it can tame that pretty well. So quicker follow-up shots, but it's never been really important to me, but your mileage may vary. So Tom, you have the con.
Let's do another your mileage may vary topic. And I'd like you guys to weigh in on this because Roger Estes wrote in on this one about adjustable sights on a revolver. Now, I'm not talking a NRA bullseye competition revolver. I'm talking a carry, home, general purpose, defensive, whatever revolver. Roger has very strong opinions. He was in law enforcement for a long time, and he said they're useless because, let's see, can't begin to say how many times I banged my police handgun on the car door, getting in and out, doorways while trying to get inside someplace to search, falling, twisting, fighting. So many ways to injure the adjustable sight. What say you?
Well, I'll take this one first. I sort of agree with him. I think factory adjustables typically aren't as high visibility as I like. And I don't think you need that precision for quote unquote actual combat distances, even though you should be practicing at 100 or more, because that may happen, especially if you're in law enforcement. But I guess I can see the theory behind it. But having said that, there's also a zillion different kinds of adjustable, and some of them are very good combat sights. So I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I would say whatever sight you want on a carry revolver or carry handgun, just make sure you can see them quickly and acquire a good target picture.
You're not stirring the pot here. That was kind of a wishy-washy answer. It's like, I see what he's saying, but they can be okay.
Life. Okay. I know everybody wants to have a black and white answer, and life's usually got a little more gray to it. So,
Roy, black and white answer, yes or no?
I think people worry too much about that. Most people I know can't shoot up to the ability of their gun, and so whether or not their sights are even regulated, I doubt most people even know, and especially if you're in a shooting. I mean, most people don't look at the sights. I don't care what anybody says. They don't look at the sights when you're in a shooting. Just go to YouTube and look up cops shooting people, in a gunfight next to a car, and tell me you see anybody looking at their sights. They're usually running back as they're kind of holding the gun out shooting, and they're shooting up over the car, and they're doing all that kind of stuff. I generally had adjustable sights on my duty guns over the years, and the reason for that was when I was a reserve one time in 1976. I'd been shooting PPC, so that's precision police combat, real precise double action revolver shooting. And I was carrying a 6-inch Model 19, which was the same gun that I used to compete with. And so it was zeroed perfectly. And the reason I did that was because I could shoot the gun really well. And sure enough, one time we had a hostage situation, and I was able to take a really precise aim, and I was very happy that I was able to shoot a gun that had regulated sights. But that's what I think.
Excellent.
Case closed.
If that makes sense.
Was that black and white enough for you, Tom?
Ish. You have to ask Roger. So.
Oh, okay.
Roger wrote the mail, so he'll let us know.
Well, this is kind of a serious one of a cranks we did a little while ago. That's a serious topic. It was talking about what to do with your guns when you kick off. We've talked about what happens. That was inspired by a couple of our friends passing, and discussing what should you do maybe beforehand for getting ready for that eventuality, because here's the dirty little secret of life. You're not getting out alive. So planning what to do with your guns is not a bad thing. And what's cool about the firearms community is we tend to take up for our fallen brothers and sisters and try to help out family members with disposing of guns and all that. So that was the gist of our gun cranks a couple of weeks ago. So I got a letter from Ben Pruitt. He said, gun.
Hey.
What? Same letter?
I got a letter from Ben Pruitt. You're stealing my letter.
Same guy.
Same guy.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
Well, does it start with "please share this with Roy"? Is that the same letter?
Maybe. Yes.
Okay. Well, I started, so I get to claim coup on this one.
All right.
Okay.
Well, 2 for 1. Go.
That's funny. Apparently, they went to our same mailbox. So, my gun club will, at the request of a member's widow or a member's widower, if that ever happens. A member's widow or a member's widower. Okay. Holden Auction open to members and guests to sell the decedent's guns, ammo, holsters, cases, reloading gear, components, the works. They prepare a color picture catalog that's available online in advance, and there's no commissions, buyer, seller premiums. Sale prices are generally less than the buyer would pay retail and much more than the widow would get from a store or consignment. They start at 9 a.m. and don't stop until everything's gone, and the widow walks out with a stack of cash and checks, freed of the burden of dealing with it. Other auctions for multiple estates are held for smaller collections. The same members have coordinated and put on the auctions for years, asking nothing in return. It's my wife's favorite aspect of the club and a truly terrific program. And Ben Pruitt sent that to me first, and I think that's great. And if you're a member of a shooting club or organization, maybe that's something you ought to throw together to help your members. So there you go.
I love that idea.
What a great idea.
And I will echo the plug. Thank you, Ben, for sending that in, because that's something every gun club can do. And a wonderful idea.
Yep.
Get a lot more people to see the guns.
I think it reflects on
them all.
Yeah, and it reflects on it reflects on shooters, though. It's like that's how they are. We tend to be that way. So
yep, exactly. Well, cool. Well, Tom, go ahead.
Okay, we gotta touch on this topic because I've gotten a million letters this month on smart guns. We did a show on smart guns.
Hey, wait. I got this letter too.
Yeah, but I got like a million. So
no, I did not.
All kinds of letters on smart guns.
I just wanted to do that.
Paper. Yeah, you wish. But anyway, a lot of people have a lot of thoughts on smart guns. So I would just like to skim through and just read a couple of the more interesting comments, and then we can discuss if that's okay. We'll have electronics to include a computer chip, therefore it can be hacked by a government agency to turn it off. Also, EMP radiation could fry the electronics. True. When the military and police have widespread adoption, I will consider it. The Secret Service uses them, I will consider it. Okay. Here's a good one. I hadn't thought of this, but we talked about the government having an off button, but this gentleman has a great point. Could criminals buy a jammer? Sound far-fetched a little, but guess what? You can buy jammers on the internet now to steal cars like that. So why not buy one to disable a smart gun? Somebody's going to come up with it, right? So, let's understand how smart tech works. If you have a house, that everything can be controlled by you, which means it can be controlled by somebody else. Boy, it just goes on and on. I can't read these. We have a present example. Electric vehicles, poorly thought introduction. They catch fire and blow up and are way heavier than they're supposed to be in knockdown parking garages. I guess there's a parallel there for smart guns. But here's one. This is a serious one. You guys, I want you to hear this. I'm going to read it very carefully. Mr. McHale's timely piece on smart guns should be required reading in public schools. Let's just digest. Let's take that in for a minute. Okay. Onward.
Tom, your wife is not supposed to write in.
Last comment. When it comes to reliance on a life-saving tool, simpler is always better. Closing comment. All right, guys. What do you think?
Harumph. Double harumph.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Tom? A couple people.
If they made smart guns mandatory, I would carry a Bowie knife.
Well, they want to. They
a Wi-Fi Bowie knife.
Want to make them mandatory. It's up to us whether they do succeed in that initiative, but they will absolutely want to make them mandatory.
Yeah.
100% on that.
Tom, you completely failed there because you're supposed to spark controversy and discussion, and we're pretty much all on the same page that they're just not really that great of an idea.
Well, I didn't get one letter that said, you guys are worried over nothing. Not one of those. So everybody was one side. There were a few people that did weigh in and say, hey, I can see the usage for it. If you live in a house with small kids and all that, it might be nice to know that only you can use it, blah, blah, blah. Recognize it's a mechanical device and can fail, but it's a layer of, potential safety.
Yeah.
But every one of them said, but the downside is all the things we just discussed. So,
well, when we discuss this and it's going to become more of a topic, we tend to get wrapped around the axle talking about the technology. Will it work? Blah, blah, blah. And like you distilled down, this boils down to one simple thing: mandates. If you want a smart gun and you want to equip yourself with it, knock yourself out, but don't make me have to carry a smart gun. And that's what we've got to keep keep focused on. If there's a mandate to own them, a widespread mandate, it's just a bad thing all the way around. So let's not forget that. So
Yep.
Harumph. Okay, this will be fun. Carrying on an empty chamber. A lot of people I know do this. Also, the same people seem to be fine with a fully loaded revolver. I believe it's because of double action trigger pull. I feel fine with revolvers most of the time myself. My main reasons are that I like the 357 round above all else, and I feel it's more reliable as well as safe. That being said, I just changed it up for summer carry. The reason being that I wanted a lighter carry so I can wear athletic shorts for comfort instead of denim shorts. I did a ton of research and landed on the Kimber Micro 9 Rapide for my summer carry, picture below. It's an ounce lighter and has 7 rounds in comparison to a 5-shot 38 from Taurus, for example. Would love to see these topics. Gene Yohannan. So, what do you think, guys? A stunned silence.
I am sad. No, I'm digesting. I'm trying to digest the question in there.
Yeah, I think it's this idea of carrying with the chamber empty on a semi-auto. What do they call it? Condition 1 or condition 2? I forget.
0.
Condition 0. Condition big rock.
Right.
I would say with any modern gun, they're designed that way, so it should just be as safe as anything else. And there's no guns I've ever carried. I'll take that back. There's one that I won't mention that I've used it as kind of a keep in, say, the garage type gun, and I don't completely trust it. It's a single action, so I store it with the chamber empty full magazine. So I have mentally gone through the drill in my head that if I ever do have to grab it and produce it, first thing I have to do, my immediate action is rack the slide. So that's the only place I can think of where I have, and it's simply because I don't trust the gun. It's probably safe, but probably is not good enough for me. So
I'm going to stir the pot because I am vehemently opposed to empty chamber carry. And here's why. Here's what it boils down to. You don't get to decide whether you have a spare hand to rack the slide. Forget how fast you can do it. It's not your decision. If you have a spare hand available to rack the slide, you may not have time. You may be so fast that time doesn't matter, but your other hand may be busy. It may be shot. It may be injured. It may be holding a child. Who knows? Not your decision. So I think it's a bad idea. Harumph.
Do you remember years ago when there was the Israelis used to have this drill and they would pull the gun up sideways and rack the slide because they carry it with an empty chamber, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I did some research on that, and they carry it with an empty chamber because the British soldiers post World War II wouldn't allow them to have loaded chambers, and so they had to develop that training so they would be able to load their gun when they had to engage. And so they did it because they didn't trust them to carry a loaded chamber, and
it just stuck.
It just stuck, So that's why I think just because somebody does it doesn't mean it's a good idea. I think we talked about this one time. There's that carry position. It's called position stool. Yeah. It's where they, hold the gun in front of their other hand in front of them and all that kind of stuff. And all these tactard demon of darkness, you see them running around and hunkered down and doing stuff like that. Well, I did the research on that, and that came from these 2 guys that went to Central America, and they were trying to train these SWAT teams. And these guys, they didn't have holsters. Everybody had a different gun. They didn't know how to do anything. And so they developed this position south. It's Sul, I guess, is position south. And that's because it made the muzzle point away from their feet. And so they said we could look and we could see where everybody's gun was and everywhere they were pointing it. And he said, that's the only reason we did it. We didn't do it because we thought it was a good prepared mode or a good carry method or a good, we did it just so they wouldn't shoot themselves in the foot.
Yep.
So
I love hearing the origin stories of some of this stuff, right?
it's the truth. I had him write it up, and I put it in American Handgunner years ago as a letter to the editor. Because I want to say, but this whole empty chamber carry, it's the same thing. If you ask me, it's people who don't know what they're doing do that. There.
Wow. There you go. A rumph.
I'm with you. I don't like it either.
I think we've all agreed, other than my garage gun, which is not my garage gun anymore.
I get that.
So,
yeah.
Yep. No, you make a great point. You don't know that other hand, in my case, my left hand, is going to be there. So, Tom, we got time for one more quick letter, so make it a good one.
Well, let's do another controversy. We got Paul Tranter wrote in, and he asked a question. He wanted us to discuss this. And what he wanted us to discuss was the whole concept of semi-autos, the issue of going out of battery. If you're if you're fighting and you don't have a free hand to rack the slide, if your muzzle is contacting something, the gun goes out of battery. What's that all about? Is it a real deal? Is it significant? Is it fantasy, real life? What's the deal? You know what I'm saying?
It's
like
real.
You jam a gun in somebody's guts, right? If you're grappling and the gun won't go off because the slide pushes a little bit out of battery.
We had a shooting. Okay. Yeah, we had a shooting on my police department, and that's exactly what happened. And so I knew the cop. He was a friend of mine. And this bad guy was on top of him, and he said, man, I took my gun, I pushed it up into his stomach, I pulled the trigger, nothing was happening. And he had the presence of mind to know what was happening. And he said, I pulled my hand back to get some space, and then I shot him. So, they make those standoff devices. You can buy them for Glocks and 1911s and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, if I was a policeman, I'd be tempted to maybe get one just for that reason.
Well, they're more likely than the average concealed carry citizen to be in a hand-to-hand struggle over a gun or whatever. So, who was it? Honor Defense used to make a model of a pistol that kind of had that built in. But I have seen a number of other ones more recently that, it's got a muzzle device or a flat or a compensator, but it's stuck on the end, so it doesn't interfere with the slide.
I like the standoff devices that have like massive, vicious prongs facing forward. That'll get their attention right now.
I use a bayonet for my standoff device on my carry pistol.
But if it's very sharp, they'll slide right up to the muzzle.
There was another guy. We put it on the cover of Handgunner a million years ago, and it was a 1911. It had this big standoff device on it, and then at the bottom of the hammer spring housing, there was a spike. So you could like push it against the guy and knock him down, and then you could stab him with the back of your gun. I thought, that'd go over good. Officer, tell me what happened. Well, I stabbed him in the eye with my gun.
Wow. And meanwhile, his face looks like hamburger because you've jammed the standoff in it 5 or 6 times.
Take that.
Wow. Well, seriously, it is a problem. And if you ever do any grappling training, which you should, at least once, try it out, because grappling with a gun in your hand is not optimal. And there's some things to think about. Number one being, if you have to use your firearm and it's semi-auto, it's going to go out of battery. And I've actually heard people say that's one reason they carry revolvers, because that doesn't happen, and they feel that they're in a situation where grappling is likely. So, it's one size does not fit all.
Let me say something about revolvers, though, because we were actually taught this, is that if someone's got a revolver and they're shooting double action, and you reach out and grab the revolver, they can't shoot the gun now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, you can't pull the trigger. If you've got a hole at the top of the frame in the cylinder, you've rendered that revolver inoperable.
Yeah.
And so that's something people don't think about. So,
because
we were taught that it's like you have to have the presence of mind, but if it's come to that point, you just reach out and grab the gun.
Yep. Well, I'll tell a operational brief, otherwise known as a war story. A friend of mine, the guy that I sold my M1 carbine to, he was a jail officer transporting a very dangerous guy, and through bad planning, the guy got out of handcuffs, went for his Model 19, and they were in downtown Indianapolis, Indiana on the interstate. He was transporting him, and the guy was pulling the trigger and saying, "Give it up, give it up." And my friend had the presence of mind to clamp both hands over the cylinder, and he could feel it trying to rotate. And, the guy's pulling for everything he's worth, and the gun never went off. Now, he's got two hands on the gun. The car did his thing, actually went down the ramp and struck an embankment. And this was airbag, but it knocked everybody silly. And there was a great picture. I've still got it in a scrapbook. Front page above the fold of the late great Indianapolis Star of my buddy with his hair all askew and bleeding from hitting the windshield. He'd gotten his gun back by that time, and he's holding it on this guy. So he says the most vivid memory he has is feeling that cylinder going around. And he said there was no way it was going to happen because he left his fingerprints in that gun. So it's a thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great presence of mind
amazing.
on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
There's a moral there, right? Know your gear.
Yeah.
Well, I wondered because when we were taught that with revolvers, I thought, well, what happens if you grab a semi-auto? What happens if you grab a slide? And so we did it. And so we actually tested it. It was a Beretta 92, and we had heavy, like fireplace gloves,
Yeah.
And so I did it. Several of us did it, and we don't try this at home. We're experts, okay? Just so you know. And so I held the slide in one hand, the slide in the frame of the gun, and somebody else pulled the trigger double action, and you were able to contain the slide. It surprised the hell out of all of us. We thought, it's going to rip out of my hand or something. No, not at all. It went boom.
Wow.
So you did suddenly create a single shot semi-auto, which may or may not have, good effect, but
wow.
Don't try that at home, boys and girls.
So in practical terms, if you do that in a fight, you're only enduring one shot to the guts, and then after that, the gun's inoperable.
Yeah. Lucky you.
Not bad. Okay.
Well, okay, real quick, on a related but different topic, Roy, do you remember, and Tom, maybe you've heard of this too, for a while, and this is probably 80s, mid 80s, there was a disarmament or
I know what you're going to talk about.
where you jam the web of your hand down between the hammer and the frame of the gun. And that, obviously, if you've got that meat in there, the hammer on an external hammer gun is not going to fall. But my question that none of the instructors could answer is, okay, I'm doing that and I miss. Now I've essentially pushed myself up against the guy. That just didn't make a lot of sense to me, but is that what you were thinking of, Roy?
No, actually, you fooled me on that. I know they used to tell us that if somebody has a cocked revolver, you can put your thumb, and it's like, yeah, right, I'm going to do that in the middle of a fight.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to hit him with a brick is what I'm going to do. But no, do you remember when Beretta 92s first came out? That because you can basically take the slide off in one fluid movement,
right?
And I didn't really believe it, but we had a range guy with nothing better to do, and he practiced that and practiced it and practiced it and practiced it. And I have to say, if you were holding a Beretta 92 on him, he could stand in front of you, and before you even knew what happened, he would be holding the slide in his hand. And it was like, whoa, that was scary.
Do you need that, buddy?
I know, yeah. You want this back? That was amazing. So.
Oh, that's great.
All right.
Well, guys, we've gone long as usual, but and we've still got letters. So we'd love to hear from you, editor at gunsmagazine.com or editor at AmericanHandgunner.com. And for some reason, as we've seen, they occasionally go to both. But we love to hear what you're saying. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, leave a comment down there. And if you're listening on the Guns Magazine, I almost did it, the Gun Cranks podcast, you can email us at those same locations. So before we go, I totally botched our sponsorship coming in at the top of the show. I'm not going to do it this time. I'm going to remind you, 4patriots.com, the number 4, the word patriots.com, for all your preparedness supplies and needs. And what's that code, Tom?
Gun Cranks. I was just, sorry, you caught me off guard. I was just sitting there remembering how gracefully I reminded you at the beginning of the show.
Well,
to
if
mention our sponsor.
I do stuff
no,
like,
I don't think anybody watching would have even known, that you had forgotten.
Yeah.
So,
well, I do stuff like that to keep that raw, gritty feel. This is all scripted. We do focus groups. We have a whole bank of producers and directors and all that. And everything you see here is done intentionally, to make it feel more real. And okay, who are we lying to? This thing's a dumpster fire. We get together and record these shows, and that's kind of why it's fun on our side. Hopefully it is for you too. So check out gunsmagazine.com, americanhandgunner.com, the Gun Cranks podcast, the Guns Magazine podcast on all your standard podcast directories. And did I forget anything else, guys?
Just Roy's new podcast, the Sideways Hat Podcast Extravaganza.
Wow.
Start real stories, true stories from Roy's Sideways Hat adventures. So when's that launching?
I'm speechless. You got me. I started with a grenade. Tom, you finished up with an RPG. So
close the show.
Thank you so much.
I can do it.
Okay. Well, that's it. Another strange and weird episode of the Gun Cranks. We're going to see you next week. On behalf of Roy Huntington and Tom McHale, I'm Brent Wheat, and this has been the Gun Cranks. See y'all later.
I'm Guns Magazine editor Brent Wheat, along with Tom McHale, editor of American Handgunner, Eric Yellowhouse, editor of AmericanCop.com, and Dad About Man About Town, Roy Huntington.